The bell above the cafe door gives a soft ring, but nobody looks up. Then she steps inside, and every sound in the room suddenly feels louder. Mugs clink harder, a spoon scrapes a plate, whispered laughter flickers through the air. She keeps her head slightly bowed, as if that small angle could make her invisible. A faded denim scarf hides most of her left cheek, yet the jagged scar still peeks out, running from temple to jaw like a lightning bolt that once struck and never left. Her shoes scuff along the tiles. The laces are frayed, almost undone, but she moves with quiet care, like each step might disturb someone else's peace. At one table a pair of teenagers nudge each other. One tilts her phone, whisper giggling while pretending to scroll. The other mouths a word only they can hear, monster, perhaps, or maybe just weird. Nearby, a man in a bright suit sighs with dramatic patience, twists in his chair, and eyes the woman as if she were blocking the sun. She chooses the far corner, a small two-seater tucked beside a dusty fake plant. It is the coldest place in the room, but it gives her a wall at her back. She drops her canvas bag on the floor. The bag rattles with metal. Maybe coins, maybe keys, nobody cares enough to guess. Sitting, she wraps her hands around themselves, fingers weaving tight as rope. A thin silver band glints on one thumb. Its shine is too pure for the rest of her, like hope that refused to tarnish. The barista calls, "Next," in a cheerful voice that sounds practiced. The woman rises at once. 3 steps forward, she keeps count without looking down. She orders plain black coffee, no sugar, no milk. Her voice is soft gravel, and just those few words cost her a little breath. Behind her, someone mutters loud enough to be heard, she could afford cream if she didn't spend on tattoos. Snickers float up like bubbles in stale water. The woman pays with exact change. Her sleeve slides back as she passes the coins, revealing a faint ink design on her wrist, an old unit emblem, half erased by time, partly swallowed by scar tissue. Most people see nothing except a blur of lines. A few notice and shrug. None connected to anything but bad choices. She feels their looks press into her skin, sharper than needles. Yet she utters no protest. She just thanks the barista, voice cracking, as if even gratitude scrapes her throat. Coffee in hand, she returns to the corner table. The surface wobbles, so she steadies it with a folded napkin. Steam rises, fogging the air in front of her face. She closes her eyes, lets the warmth kiss the scar that the world keeps staring at. For a moment, the cafe's bright chatter dissolves into a low hum, almost like rain on distant tin. Her shoulders loosen. She tries to breathe in peace. But behind her, chairs scrape. Footsteps shuffle. Curious eyes gather courage. Another whisper breaks through, cruel and careless, and her scar seems to pulse beneath its cloth shield, waiting for something, or someone, to finally see beyond the wound. The cafe door opens again, this time with more weight. The bell rings twice, a little sharper. No one pays much attention at first. Just another customer. Another stranger stepping into the daily blur of small talk, coffee steam, and half-finished breakfasts. But then some heads turn, not because of noise, but because of the way the man stands. He pauses at the door, straight-backed, scanning the room like he's checking for exits, not tables. Tall, broad, maybe in his 50s. His gray jacket is clean but worn, the kind that's seen more weather than style. On his head, a faded cap sits proudly. A small badge gleams at the front. Few recognize it, but it means something to him. He walks in slowly, boots tapping a steady rhythm against the tile. He doesn't rush, doesn't fidget with his phone, doesn't follow the usual rhythm of cafe life. People glance at him, then look away, unsure why they noticed him in the first place. He stands in line behind a man ordering a caramel latte with extra syrup and a side of attitude. The tall man waits without impatience. His eyes move across the room once more, scanning. Then they land on the corner table, the woman. She's still there, quietly sipping her black coffee. She holds the mug with both hands, not for comfort, but like it anchors her. Her eyes stare into it like she's reading a map only she can see. Her scarf has shifted slightly. The scar is clearer now, a raw thread of memory etched into her skin. The man doesn't flinch when he sees it. His gaze doesn't flicker with curiosity or judgment. Instead, he narrows his eyes slightly, as if he's trying to remember. He orders a simple black coffee too. No sugar. No questions. As he waits, he tilts his head. His eyes lock on the woman's wrist, the one holding her mug just slightly off the table. His breath hitches. He leans forward a bit, squinting, heart pacing faster than he's used to. On that wrist, he sees something. Not just a tattoo, but the tattoo. The lines are faded, yes. Some parts lost to time and scar. But the shape is unmistakable. 2 eagle wings crossed over a small anchor. Bravo Unit 12. His hand trembles slightly as he accepts his coffee. He doesn't add cream. Doesn't reach for a lid. He just turns, slow and steady, and walks straight toward her table. She doesn't notice at first. Her eyes are still on her mug. But when his shadow touches her table, she lifts her head slightly, more out of habit than curiosity. Then he speaks, low, calm, and careful. "Ma'am," he says, with a nod. "Were you in Bravo Unit 12? Silence. Complete. The cafe goes still, like time just stopped ticking. She looks up fully now. Her eyes meet his. There's a pause. Something flickers across her face. Confusion, then hesitation, then something else. Caution, maybe. Or memory. Her fingers loosen their grip on the mug. Her lips part just a little. She doesn't speak, but her eyes lower to her wrist. Then she looks back at him. Slowly, she nods. The man doesn't blink. His jaw clenches just for a moment. He sets his coffee down gently on her table. Then, to the shock of everyone watching, he straightens to full height and salutes. Not casually. Not jokingly. A real salute. Sharp. Respectful. And filled with something heavy. Gratitude. The woman freezes. Her hand goes to her chest, not to return the salute, but as if to calm the pounding beneath her ribs. Her lips press tight. Her eyes glisten. Around them, chairs squeak as people shift uncomfortably. Whispers ripple again, but this time it's not mockery. It's confusion. Curiosity. A ripple of awareness that something's happening here that they don't understand. "I remember you," the man says quietly, leaning in just enough for only her to hear. "Ramadi. 2008. You pulled me out after the blast. You were the medic. You kept pressure on my leg until the bird came." She stares at him, eyes wide now, struggling to breathe through the rising tide of emotion. She tries to speak, but the words get caught. Her throat clenches shut. So she nods again. Slower. More certain this time. The man lowers himself into the seat across from her. No permission asked. But none needed. "They told us you didn't make it," he continues, voice steady, but softer now. "Said you were hit a few minutes later. That you went missing in the dust." Her hand grips the edge of the table. She swallows hard. "I woke up in Germany a week later," he says. "I never stopped wondering what happened to you." The cafe forgets how to make noise. Even the barista's blender goes quiet. She finally finds her voice. It's raspy, fragile, but clear. "They pulled me out 2 hours later," she whispers. "Shrapnel to the face. They couldn't save the skin. Said I should be grateful to be alive." The man nods solemnly. "They were right. So am I." She laughs, but it's not joy. It's the kind of laugh that holds back years of pain. Then her eyes dart around the cafe, as if just remembering where she is. She sees the faces watching. The judgment softening. The whispers gone. The man notices too. He turns slightly, addressing no one in particular. "She's a hero," he says loud enough to carry. "Saved 6 of us that day. 2 medics didn't make it. She did. And kept going." The room shifts. The air feels different now. Respect hums in the silence. People look down at their cups. Some look at her, really look, for the first time, without flinching. Without shame. The woman breathes deeper. Her shoulders rise, then fall, with a quiet strength. For the first time in a long while, she's not hiding her scar. It's there as always, but now, it's not a wound. It's a mark of something endured. Something survived. She meets the man's eyes again. There's a connection there, something only soldiers, only survivors, ever really understand. And in that shared moment, the noise of the world returns, but softer, gentler, different. The silence broke like glass, but not from noise, more like a shift in energy. The kind of shift that changes people without them realizing. The cafe, just moments before filled with low judgment and side glances, was now frozen. Not because something bad happened, but because something real did. Something human. Something raw and unexpected. The woman sat there, her fingers no longer wrapped around the mug, but resting gently on the table. Her wrist, the one with the faded tattoo, was now fully visible. She didn't hide it anymore. The lines, though scarred and half-erased, were symbols of truth. Proof of something bigger than the cafe, the gossip, or even the pain. Her hand trembled slightly, but not from fear. More like the release that comes when someone else finally sees you. Across from her, the man, still calm, still steady, watched her closely. His voice stayed quiet, but there was power in the way he spoke. "You saved more lives than you'll ever know," he said. "We were surrounded. People were screaming. Everything was fire. You ran into it." She shook her head lightly. "I was just doing what I was trained to do." "No," he replied. "You did more. Some people follow orders. You followed heart." The moment was thick. Not awkward. Just full. Full of years of silence, of hiding, of pain that no one had taken the time to ask about. She looked down for a second, her hair falling over her eyes, but the man reached forward, not to touch, but to offer something just as real, presence. "You don't need to be quiet anymore," he said. "You've earned the right to be heard." Around them, something unexpected happened. A woman from one of the front tables stood up. Slowly. She didn't say anything. Just took a step forward. Then another. Her eyes weren't mocking. They were wide, apologetic, soft. She nodded at the scarred woman with a hand pressed to her own chest, like an unspoken, "I see you now." Next, one of the teenagers who had giggled earlier looked down at her phone, then back up. Her cheeks turned red. She whispered something to her friend, then stood as well. The second girl followed. They didn't laugh this time. They just stood. Quiet. Still. The cafe was becoming something else. Something rare. A place where someone who had been invisible for so long was finally being seen. Not as a curiosity. Not as a ghost. But as a person. A hero. The barista stepped out from behind the counter, drying his hands on a towel. He walked up to their table, placed a fresh cup of coffee beside the woman, and said, "On the house." Then added, softer, "Thank you. For your service." The woman looked around, overwhelmed. Not because people were staring, but because they weren't staring through her anymore. They weren't judging her for the scar, or her clothes, or her silence. They were seeing her with it all. She placed a hand over the tattoo on her wrist and closed her eyes for just a moment. "I didn't think anyone remembered," she said. "Not the war. Not me. Not what it cost." The man across from her leaned forward, his tone steady. "We never forget. We just get lost in the noise sometimes." There was a pause, soft, peaceful. The kind that makes you hold your breath just to keep it from ending too soon. Then a voice from the back of the cafe broke the quiet, but this time not with cruelty. "My brother was in the military," said a man in his 30s. "He came back, but he was never the same. I wish I knew what he went through." The scarred woman looked at him gently. "It's hard to explain. It's like, part of you stays behind, and part of you comes back. Changed." "Did you ever talk about it?" he asked. She hesitated, then shook her head. No one wanted to listen. "You were wrong," said the older man beside her. "They do want to listen. They just didn't know how." The room held still again. But this time it was different. No tension. No fear. Just quiet respect. The kind that doesn't need applause or speeches. Someone began to clap. Just one person. Then another joined. And another. Soon, the cafe was filled with soft, rhythmic applause. Not the kind used for show, but the kind that grows naturally when people feel something true. The woman sat still for a moment, eyes wide, lips parted, hands clenched tight in her lap. It had been years since she heard that sound for her. Not pity. Not protocol. But appreciation. Real appreciation. Her eyes welled up again. She didn't wipe the tears away this time. She let them fall. Slowly. Quietly. Each one carrying a piece of the silence she had carried for too long. "I didn't think this would ever happen," she whispered. The man gave her a small smile. "You deserve it." She looked down again, not to hide, but just to take it all in. Her hand brushed the scar along her face. Not ashamed. Not regretful. Just present. One of the teenage girls stepped forward and softly asked, "Can I sit with you?" The woman looked up, surprised. "Of course." The girl sat down across from her, next to the veteran. The table that had been the loneliest corner in the cafe was now the most full. The most alive. People began talking, not just to her, but about the stories behind the people they'd overlooked for too long. Stories of fathers, mothers, siblings, friends. People who had served, people who had survived, and people who had suffered quietly in plain sight. And as the coffee cooled on tables all around the room, one thing became clear. This woman wasn't invisible anymore. Her scars didn't make people turn away. They drew them in. Because behind every scar, there was a story. Behind every story, a heartbeat. And now, people were finally listening.